Good morning, everybody. It's Mike. It is Sunday, the 16th of November. This is my week ahead video. I'm putting it out for free this week. I'm not going to have time to do charts this weekend. I was out with my daughter all day yesterday. I have to be out of here in the next 20, 30 minutes here today. I just don't have time to do what I wanted to do, and we'll be in and out most of the day with friends. So I'm going to put this out there for free, my thoughts here, and hope this helps you guys all out there. I'll put a link to the description if you want to join us in the live trading room. Let's talk about this week as we come into it, okay? It's been a pretty quiet weekend. This week, we're going to focus on a lot of things. First off, we have the Fed minutes this week. We're going to have non-farm payroll for September at 8:30 in the morning on Thursday. That's not on this list. They're going to have to update it. We have Michigan consumer sentiment coming in. We have PMI composite on Friday. We're going to get other data here and there. The other thing that's going to be going to be a focus for this for the world is going to be the Epstein vote in the House that's supposed to take place on Tuesday, and see how that votes, if they have enough votes to make it veto proof. And then if it goes to the Senate, does the Senate pass it and how that goes forward? So some things to keep an eye on there, as that has bearings on Wall Street and everybody. Okay, so economic week this week, we're gonna get a lot of data coming at us and a lot of discussion. Earnings this week, we're kind of training our focus. We're focusing now is going into the retail sector. You have Home Depot, Target, Walmart in there, Lowe's, TJ Maxx, Ross Stores, BJ's. China also becomes a focus with Baidu's in there, Bull's in there, Futu's in there, PDD is in there. So you're starting to see a lot of names like this. And then, of course, the big focus is going to be Wednesday night on NVIDIA. Palo Alto also reports on Wednesday night, but NVIDIA is going to steal the show. Do I think they're going to beat? Absolutely. Do I think they're going to guide up again? Absolutely. No reason to think they won't. Will it be enough here? And that's really what the question's all about, is how big a guide up is that? What does they say? Remember, they're not counting on any revenue right now from China. So all that China money's been already been backed out and it's gone. So it'll be interesting what they have to say and how things are going there. So that's really going to be some of the driving focuses as we go into this week. All right, so let's start off here and hello, there we go. All right, and talk sentiment real quick before we come into everything. Sentiment wise, we've seen some changes here. It didn't change much. Okay, so when we look at the NASDAQ here, on the highs versus lows, plus 73 versus negative 359. We're heavily inverted. What does this mean? 73 companies making highs and 359 companies making new lows. Okay, so that is not a good thing. When you go over to the S&P 500, plus 34 versus negative 79, we inverted here also, but it's much better off. Put to call, we were bared up coming into this, and now we're bulled up coming into this. Now we are bared up here going into this. So this is screaming for a sentiment squeeze. Everybody went running for puts on Friday, thinking this is a one-day bounce. We'll see how this trades out. When we look at market overall breadth, you have it leading down, puking on the NASDAQ, whereas on the New York Stock Exchange, we're just turned down. We're still holding in very well. The advanced decline lines all rolled over. You see tech has been leading. Small caps, interestingly, held in. The Dow still also remains stronger. And when you look at the oscillators, negative 56, we're on the negative side of neutral on the New York Stock Exchange, whereas the NASDAQ, negative 165, remains slightly oversold. Notice we're not getting any really good signals here. All right, the ES, we've talked about this a lot. We've talked about a lot of things coming on and levels to hold. But this 50-day area, it's been holding here since we retook it in April. This also coincides with the on the weekly, the 8-day and the 9-day. This is important. Notice we close back above it. This and Friday's candle look the same. So the question is, are we getting a W here? Maybe, right? Not sure. It could be also an M pattern that forms when we go lower from here. We'll have to see how this plays out. But right now you have a possible, W pattern here. We'll see this all over the place. Same thing on the NQ. It looks like this could be a W, right? Crude remains overall very weak. You can see this for the year, not doing much. Bonds, weak as well. Nothing going on here. Gold finally coming in. Looked like it was a push up, came in the last couple of days. Bitcoin has been very weak. Very, very weak on Bitcoin, all the way back down here to under 100,000, down to the 95,000 level. And this is something that's been, a little tough. Ethereum's being up. These crypto names are just not in play. The VIX on Friday, and this is important to watch, right? When we talk about the VIX, went outside the Bollinger Bands and closed back in on Friday. That is usually a risk on signal. And here we had a lot of games. This was a definite risk on signal in here, not quite as much, a little bit maybe. We'll see how this plays out, right? HYG, junk bonds, okay, holding in, not dumping. That's good for the markets. The transports overall holding in, and the dollar has, after a strengthening phase, is weakened back down. All right, so when we look at the S&P 500 again, notice what's going on here, and a couple important things. First of all, this trend line here, you draw this up, and I redraw it, and I do redraw my trend lines based upon what I'm seeing and how things are moving. This trend line has, held. We went below it last Friday, came back up, and here we did the same thing and closed right back inside of it. Notice this week we went up to 21 day. We rejected at the 21 day in the SPY. That is the key level to clear now, right? So we went below the 50 day and reclaimed it. This 50 day is also important when you look at a weekly chart. This 50 day, right, it matches up with pretty much with the 8 EMA on the weekly chart, and that 8 EMA is the level we have held over and over again here. And here we are again on this week. We held it. And the one thing to talk about here is about me and stock charts. We're talking about it on the other day on Wednesday or Thursday. Thursday, I think a lot of these weekly charts were looking very bad, and this is going to save some of them, this action that we caught here on Friday. Okay, so this is good. So where do I think we get on here on Friday? With the SPY, things to watch. Break the 21 day, retake the 8 day. You watch for a move back to 680. If you take out the midpoint on this here, the W 684, 685 area, you go to new highs and see if we can push higher. If we cannot hold this low here, this low from back here, this vicious candle becomes the important place to hold. That candle is 652.84. That would give you a 5% pullback, and there's your 100-day moving average coming up to that. If you cannot hold that candle, and let's say we have bigger problems in this market, and then we could be heading forward to 10 or even bigger correction than that. So keep that in mind here. We'll see if this W plays out. We'll see how this works. All right, so let's start off with some sectors. Let's start off with energy. Energy has been waking up, sitting here at this 192 area, trying to break out. I would keep an eye on the energy sector. ExxonMobil has been one of the leaders there. This 120 has been a bear above that. 123 is the 1 year high. We'll keep an eye on that one. Chevron, not as strong. It needs to really kind of get going. I'm sorry, Oxy also not quite as strong. What has been strong, again, is you have some of these nuclear names that are making money, like GE Verona, nice bounce. CEG, right? Constellation Energy with a nice bounce. B Energy has been on fire, but finally came in, also looking good. Devon has had a nice move as well. So you see some of these names waking up. Halliburton's been holding strong, and Schlumberger. So keep an eye on some of these names, just throwing some different ideas at you. The financials came back in, just missed the all-time high. JP Morgan got hit one of the hardest, maybe. Why? Because Trump has basically named and is saying we need to investigate. We need to investigate um, JP Morgan and has ordered an investigation for the Epstein files. So that's probably why Jamie Dimon's been mentioned this before. The reason I bring up Epstein is not really so much Trump, but there are and other politicians, is also because a lot of these powerful and some very big names in Wall Street might be caught up in this. And that's why you need to pay attention to this. Goldman Sachs, back to the 50-day. Morgan Stanley, 50-day. These all held here. Bank of America, also stronger. Citigroup held the 50-day. Wells Fargo, there's always held the 50-day at the end, right? So these are holding it okay. Payment names like Affirm, overall acting okay, holding in, no power behind it. PayPal has gotten shellacked again. Visa not doing so good. This is a big spot on Visa. You can see it's trying to break this shelf under 330, can come down. MasterCard also looking the same way. So the payment space is American Express holding better. It's looking a little stressed. This is probably because of what's going on with the consumer. Consumer stressed, and we're seeing delinquencies go up. I need to bring up SoFi. SoFi put an all-time high in last week, came back under the 50-day. Keep an eye on that. I know you guys like this little open, had a nice move up here. The CEO and his family buying shares. Watch this one back above the 9 area. New, another SoFi type name for more for Latin America and other countries, also holding well. Some of these names look fairly good. What else are we going to look at? Let's talk about biotech or pharma. IBB up at a 52-week high, XBI also at a 52-week high. Lilly been a monster. This is a new all-time high on this move. J&J put a new all-time high. To me, you cannot chase these moves. Bristol Myers hit the 200-day hard rejection there. Merck also trying to wake up. Maybe that one there's still stuff. I just think most of these names have moved way too much for me to really want to play with them. And we'll see how they trade out. But that Lilly mood is just unbelievable here. All right, what else we got going on? Let's talk about some names like Boeing. Boeing overall weak out of play, needs to clear the 8-day. Just nothing happening there. Cat just off the all-time high, holding the 21-day, remains very strong. So some strength there. The airlines, AAL, UAL, I mean, there's a seasonally strong time of year, but they've been kind of beaten up a little bit, and they're going to take some hits based upon what's going on with all the canceled flights in that sector. We're going to get a lot of earnings this week. One we're not going to get this week is Costco there next week. Costco here really needs to clear back above that 50-day and hold it this time. Otherwise, it's just kind of sitting in here. Not much has changed. And this is what I talk about. You always redraw your trend lines. We'll redraw it maybe through there this time, roughly, quickly. You get the idea. It's got to take this downtrend out if it's going to go anywhere. That. All right, what else we got? Let's talk the semis. Semis have been the lifeblood of this market. It pulled back, held the 50-day big bounce, and closed right green here barely. And this downtrend really needs to be cleared. These names like Micron and SanDisk came screaming back at the all-time highs, Western Digital, because these companies can charge whatever they want right now for memory. Memory is so much in use by these chips. NVIDIA report this week. I do have two calls left on this one, which are down. We'll see what they do anything, but needs to reclaim some levels and then see if it can run. Maybe it can get back to 200 ahead of Wednesday's earnings, and then we'll see. You do have a little gap sitting up there at the 204 area. AMD had a big week. They're nice guidance up. They're holding in well, held the 21-day and closed right on the 8-day. This one still looks good. It's not very extended here. It's been consolidating, so I'd keep my eyes on that one. Everybody keeps asking about Intel. To me, Intel, I drew this line, right? It's yeah, just delete it. All right, you come up, you draw a line. Is it any good anymore? I don't know. I really don't have a lot of faith in this name. I would redraw this downtrend like this. This was the big level to hold this 35 area. It hit the 50-day and bounced off of it. So if you like Intel, this is a place to try it versus that 50-day and stay long versus that. What else, guys? Let's talk about names like Hood. Hood had a huge move, not trading so well right here, back down a little bit, lost the 50-day, right? That was big, got under 100-day in reverse. If this market rolls over, you have a gap here, 110.21, keep that in mind. And you have a stronger support around this 100 area. So that might be the place to look for Hood if it comes down to there. If not, we'll see. You also have a very steep downtrend here when you look at it. You can see a very well-defined steep downtrend. It would need to clear that. Basically, we take all the moving average and Hood might look good for a move back towards 140. Coin came in and held the 200-day barely onto the close. Again, with crypto week, watch. I think you got stronger support down here around this 240. You also have an open gap at 231.40. Crypto continues to sell. That may continue to come in as well, right? Just, giving some ideas, different types of conversations. Netflix is going to split 10 for 1 on the open on Monday. It'll happen in the morning, in the open on Monday before the open, and we'll see how it trades. This should put liquidity into the name, which would be nice. It'd be easier for us all to trade it. We'll keep an eye on it. It has a gap here if it wants to go into it. If it can get back above the 50-day, we'll keep our eyes here on this one as well overall and see what it wants to do. In fact, let's remove some of this stuff now because all these do not recalibrate. Okay. What about else? Let's talk about big cap tech. Let's start off with Google. Google here, this came back, held the 21-day and closed strong, and then is up after hours big. Warren Buffett, one of his parting shots, he have a 4 point something billion dollar stake in Google here. So trading back up to 288. We'll see how this handles the open, but this is one of the favorite ones. 292.01 is the all-time high. And, this one still looks very, very good, right? Meta, which I know everybody keeps saying, isn't Meta great here? Isn't Meta steal here? Isn't it a value play? I don't know. Meta is one of those companies that's pouring out tons of money and getting no return on AI at this point. And, their earnings guidance was not good for this quarter. So we'll see. Bottom line is, Meta needs to reclaim the 8-day to get any kind of movement up here. Right now, we haven't done that. To the downside, you have another gap at 571. So if this sell-off continues, you could start looking around this 550 area. That might make a little bit more sense to me for Meta. We'll see. Apple continues to hold in like a rock star, just off the all-time high. This one looks very, very good still. I would just keep my eyes on that one. Microsoft went back down below 500, bounced and is back up. Needs to clear this 514 area, which would bring it back above all the moving averages. Again, we'll see if that one wants to go. Amazon, I'm in this one. I have some options that are very underwater on it as well, and there's not much I can do about it. We'll see. It's come into this gap. This one just broke out. It's just how it's trading. Here it is down. Watch this 50-day area and the gap fill area down here at 230, 228, 229 area, and then maybe it'll try to bounce. Could all go all the way down to 223 area, or even the 200-day has been strong support. Overall, I still like that quite a bit. Tesla, Tesla was holding in the range, dumped. He had a big reversal on this on Friday. Now we'll see. It's under all the moving averages except for the 100th and 200, and it's pretty far off of them. So we'll see. If this wants to come down further, here's your breakout level at 367.70. That might be support there. And then you have this uptrend that it's been in from here. And we'll see if that means anything as it comes into it. What else, guys? A lot going on out there. I think what you have to do here is keep your head on a swivel. Names like CRM came through this fairly well. Oracle gave that gap fill and bounced on the 200-day. You can keep an eye on it there. You have names like Snowflake coming up soon. They're earning. They came back to the 50-day and held. Crowd also earning soon, holding very close to all-time highs. Still a lot of strength and a lot of names in this market. When you look around out there, everybody wants to talk names like Rocket Lab. So let's talk about these real quick before we wrap up here. Watch this 4250 area and then 40, see if those hold. ONDS continues to get new contracts. Nice bounce there. Watch the 8 level above that. That one could be strong. JOBY, another one you guys like a lot, holding in. Not doing a lot, but holding in. These nuclear names, I want nothing to do with them. NNE, OKLO, these are pre-revenue. They have no revenue. They're just hemorrhaging money, and they're years away from having it. This, it's a great concept and idea. Whether this actually comes to fruition or not remains to be seen. I would be basically trying to avoid these, maybe day trade them, but I would not want to be owning these here. And, with that said, guys, I'm going to wish you guys a wonderful weekend. I hope this video helps you. We'll see where this market wants to go this week. And I think you really just have to keep your head on a swivel and be flexible and prepared for a move either way. That W pattern on the SPY, it looks juicy. If it triggers, we'll see. And if it doesn't trigger, then we'll focus on some shorts and see what we can get. All right, guys, see you in the room on Monday morning. Everybody else, link in the description if you want to join us. Have a great Sunday. Go Giants, I think.